The holy war has begun, and dragons are heading straight for the ship after destroying the main barrier. The elf princess stands calmly at the center, despite the chaos. Her subordinates are stunned that even her most powerful defense, the infinity prism, has been shattered. She remains composed, acknowledging that the enemy managed to break through her personal barrier, just as expected. Hovering mid-air, the elf princess chants a powerful spell, summoning a barrage of meteors from the sky. The magic circle glows behind her as fiery projectiles rain down. Below, a group of dragons advances toward the ship, but they're immediately met with a devastating counterattack. The meteor storm engulfs the area in explosive flames. The meteor storm devastates the dragon forces mid-air, leaving the sky filled with falling bodies. Observing the aftermath, one of the commanders acknowledges Anastasia's overwhelming power, stating that she single-handedly matched the strength of an entire magical army. Reports confirm that 80% of the dragon army has been eliminated. A massive dragon emerges, exuding pressure. In response, Anastasia steps forward calmly. She's introduced as the millennial great magician, the seventh princess of the Elven Empire, and a once-in-a-millennium genius. Another character questions if Naga truly intends to let Anastasia handle the situation alone. A surge of magic power shakes the battlefield. The Dragonkin unleash their final trump card, the Heavenly Dragon King Cannon. The elves immediately recognize the threat, urging Anastasia to retreat. But she refuses, determined to defend the Eternal Heart, knowing that if it's lost, it could fall into enemy hands. Anastasia begins chanting a powerful incantation, calling upon the flames of creation. Her magic fuses ancient elven wisdom with world-ending fire. Witnesses realize she's unleashing the ultimate magic, a spell born from studying countless ancient texts. As her power surges, she prepares to erase everything in her path with overwhelming force. Anastasia releases her ultimate spell, Violet Nova. A massive surge of energy erupts from her hand, engulfing the dragon in a blinding explosion. The force and scale of the attack leave no doubt. This was magic meant to end wars. After unleashing her spell, Anastasia wakes up alone on a beach. Disoriented, she looks around and realizes she's by the sea, unsure of how she got there or what happened after the explosion. Alone on the shore, Anastasia calls out for her allies, Miel, General Egnor, and the others, but there's no response. She wonders if they were scattered by the impact of the magic. Just as she decides to return to the battlefield, a loud, eerie roar echoes from the forest, catching her off guard. From the shadows of the forest, a wild-looking man appears, clutching a wooden club and staring intensely. Anastasia turns toward the presence, still calm, but the tension rises. His wide, unblinking eyes lock onto her, filled with shock or something darker. Anastasia spots something approaching and panics. She instinctively casts a wind spell to push it back, but the magic fails. Alarmed, she warns it not to come closer, but when the spell still doesn't activate, she screams and runs, overwhelmed by fear. Cornered on a rocky cliff by the man, Anastasia tries to escape by flying, but her magic fails again. Shocked, she realizes she can no longer fly, her powers have vanished. The man suddenly tackles Anastasia, causing her to scream in panic. But just as she braces for the worst, he desperately pleads for help, revealing he's been trapped on the island for a week. Shocked, Anastasia realizes he can talk, and that he's not an enemy, but a castaway. Anastasia realizes she's stranded on a desert island after the magical explosion. She introduces herself as the seventh princess of the Elven Empire and explains the situation. Despite her pride, she decides to tolerate the humans' earlier behavior for now and asks for their exact location, promising to get them off the island. The man dismisses Anastasia's words as a joke, thinking she's just a strange kid playing pretend. He questions her background, assuming she's a middle schooler. Offended by the disrespect, Anastasia snaps back, furious that someone of his status would dare speak so casually to royalty. She demands to know the location of the ship, suspecting it might have crashed due to the magical explosion, even though such a scenario should have been impossible. The man assumes Anastasia is delusional from trauma and convinces himself she's just a lost girl making up fantasies. He acts sympathetic but firmly tells her to drop the act, calling her a middle schooler who can't use magic. He insists they must accept the harsh reality of surviving on the island, completely dismissing her identity as a princess. Frustrated and insulted, Anastasia yells back, claiming she's a great magician. To prove it, she attempts a spell, and to her surprise, it works. She activates a warp spell right in front of the man, catching both of them off guard. Desperate to prove her identity, Anastasia starts casting her most powerful spells, one after another: Meteor Storm, Glacial Bream, Heal, Violet Nova, but none of them activate. The man watches silently, concluding that her condition is worse than he thought. As Anastasia struggles with the reality of her powerless state, the man suddenly panics and screams. She turns around to see a slime-like creature emerging, the slimy, suffocating demon. Her expression shifts immediately, recognizing the threat despite her inability to cast magic. Anastasia initially dismisses the threat, thinking it's just a slime, but before she can react further, the creature lunges and wraps around her, catching her completely off guard. The slime completely restrains Anastasia, wrapping around her limbs and entering her mouth, cutting off her air. Struggling to breathe, she panics and tries to cast a spell, but nothing happens. The reality hits her. She truly can't use magic anymore. Even a weak monster like this is now a serious threat. As Anastasia struggles inside the slime, the man hesitates, then rushes toward her to help. At the same time, memories resurface, moments from her childhood, where she was repeatedly overlooked by the king. Because her mother wasn't favored, Anastasia was often ignored, left on the sidelines, even among her own family. Anastasia remembers the moment her magical power awakened. She was recognized as a once-in-a-thousand-years genius, and for the first time, her father acknowledged her, calling her his dear daughter. That rare moment of praise stood out in a childhood otherwise marked by neglect. Sinking into unconsciousness, Anastasia reflects on her life, how her magic earned her everything: status, recognition, affection. Without it, she feels like no one. Meanwhile, the man rushes toward her, shocked by what he sees. With a loud yell, the man swings a wooden club with full force and smashes the slime off of Anastasia, sending it flying with a splash. Despite having no magic, he charges in without hesitation to save her. The man relentlessly beats the slime with everything he's got, tearing it away piece by piece. He reaches out and grabs Anastasia's hand, pulling her free as she gasps for air, overwhelmed but conscious. The man carries Anastasia away from danger, explaining that the creature was a native monster that attacks when people let their guard down. It suffocates its prey by wrapping around their face. He had encountered it on his first day and barely survived by discovering its weakness to fire. Since then, he's called it the slimy, suffocating demon. Anastasia, still recovering, mutters that it's just a slime. Anastasia, still shaken, admits she can't use magic anymore and questions why he risked himself to save her. She believes there's no reason to help someone like her. The man, unfazed, simply says he was doing what any adult should, fulfilling his responsibility regardless of who she is. The man speaks firmly, saying it doesn't matter if she's mentally unwell, delusional, or powerless, he'll still help her. Anastasia clings to his back silently, hearing his words as he carries her without hesitation. As the sun sets, Anastasia watches the man silently, her expression softening with a blush. She asks what he's doing, and he replies plainly, trying to light a fire. The atmosphere has shifted, calm settling in after the earlier chaos. The man struggles to start a fire using sticks, frustrated as the sun sets. He explains the need for a campfire for light, cooking, and safety. Anastasia watches in disbelief, amazed that someone would rely on such a primitive method, especially when he's already exhausted. As the man keeps trying to start the fire, Anastasia reflects on how far behind humans are in magical development, shocked by how primitive their methods truly are. Suddenly, she groans in pain and nearly collapses. Concerned, the man immediately rushes to check on her. Anastasia brushes off his concern, claiming it's nothing, though internally she's alarmed. Her heart's been acting strange, and she's starting to worry it might be serious. She also begins questioning the cause of her magic loss, wondering if it's something physical. Watching the man still struggling to make fire, she gets frustrated, thinking she could easily create a spark if only her magic worked. Anastasia concentrates, trying to sense her body's mana flow. She realizes the mana in the air is extremely weak, far thinner than what she's used to. Reflecting on how magic works, she understands that both the caster's power and ambient mana are necessary. If she can sync her magic output with the island's low mana levels, she might be able to use magic again. Anastasia channels her focus, determined to control the faint mana around her. As advanced magic naturally draws more mana, she bets everything on casting a powerful spell. Confident and emotionally fired up, she calls forth Meteor Storm, a massive spell meant to rain destruction from above, shocking the man watching her. Her grand spell fizzles out, summoning just a small smoking rock. Embarrassed, she stares at the tiny meteor in disbelief. But before she can dwell on it, the man suddenly dashes forward with a fierce expression, surprising her as he heads straight toward the failed spell's impact. The girl watches in silence, eyes wide, as the man carefully scoops up the small meteor. He cups it with dry grass and begins to blow steadily. With each breath, the ember grows brighter, until finally, a small but steady flame bursts to life in his hands. He carefully transfers the flame to the campfire setup. The girl watches, surprised, as the dry twigs catch fire. The blaze grows steadily. He turns to her, thanking her for the help, and she freezes for a moment, eyes wide, cheeks lightly flushed, clearly caught off guard. He smiles wide, praising her for making the fire possible, saying her magic really worked. She looks up at him, a little stunned, her face still slightly flushed. The fire crackles warmly between them, quietly confirming what words didn't need to. Breathing heavily, she admits that what he saw was indeed her magic. He's stunned, apologizing for having doubted her, finally accepting that magic is real. She explains how much it can do and, with a soft look, says that with him around, she feels like she can handle anything. Her words leave him visibly moved, clearly impressed and grateful. Trying to act cool, she puffs up with pride, claiming he's finally recognized her greatness. But his cheerful response throws her off. He says he'll be relying on her every day to help start fires since he's terrible at it. The sudden jump in responsibility clearly catches her by surprise. After proudly soaking in the praise, her mana suddenly hits zero. She collapses face first into the sand, completely drained. While he panics, asking if she's okay, she weakly thinks to herself that using magic on this island just isn't worth the effort. In a sudden shift from the earlier scenes, the girl is now in a command role aboard a ship. She urgently demands a status report. Another elf reports that the dragon race has broken through the barrier and is approaching fast. Shocked, she realizes they've already breached and are starting to infiltrate. Her expression turns tense as she questions if the Dragon King Naga himself is involved. She spots what looks like a tiny insect, only to realize in horror that it's actually a miniature dragon. Confused and panicked, she questions how such a transformation is possible. One bites her, and she frantically calls for reinforcements, declaring an emergency due to the attack by these shrunken dragons. She wakes up, murmuring for reinforcements, startled and dazed. Realizing it was just a dream, she remembers how she ended up on the island, blown away by a magical collision. With barely any mana available, she had no way to escape using magic, and was forced to stay the night. She wakes up irritated, scratching all over, complaining about the island's vicious insects. Her body's covered in bite marks from the night. She looks around, wondering where the human went. He shows up casually and asks if she slept well, completely unfazed. She starts feeling unwell again, her heart skipping a beat. Trying to brush it off, she hides it when the man asks what's wrong. Meanwhile, he explains he used floating debris to create rescue signals, thinking someone might come looking for her. She acts cold, saying it wasn't necessary, but clearly the gesture got to her. She explains that her army likely noticed her disappearance from the battlefield and will come retrieve her soon. Her position is magically tracked by the Elven Empire. When the man looks confused, she snaps. Shocked he doesn't know there's a massive war going on with the world's fate on the line. Seeing no other option, she decides to give him a simple explanation. She says humans probably don't know because their race is too weak to be involved. Then she lays out the situation. The world is ruled by three major powers: the demon race of Niflheim, the dragons of Muspelheim, and the elves of the Elven Empire in Alfheim. The girl explains that the three great powers are fighting over the Eternal Heart, a massive mana crystal with limitless magical energy. Whichever race obtains it will gain overwhelming power and be able to dominate the world. The man starts to believe her story, thinking the magic part might be true despite sounding crazy. The elf girl, clearly exhausted, says she hasn't had water since yesterday and politely asks for some, admitting she's very thirsty. The man explains there were once plenty of coconuts on the island, which solved his food and water needs, so he didn't search further. He assumed help would arrive soon. Now, though, he admits he finished the last coconut yesterday, leaving the elf girl shocked that she might not get any water until rescue comes. The elf girl realizes the island's mana is too weak for her magic to work properly. That means her location can't be tracked magically, making it nearly impossible for her allies to find her. She starts to panic, realizing they'd need to search the island by hand, which could take forever. The elf girl starts to feel dizzy from dehydration, worrying the man. He remembers seeing a pool of water on his first day but had ignored it due to lack of a container. Realizing they can't rely on rescue, he decides they must survive on their own. The elf agrees they need to secure water first. While walking through the forest, the elf suddenly yells in pain after stepping on something sharp. Concerned, the man turns to check on her. She sits down, holding her foot, and he offers to take a look. The elf tries to pull away, embarrassed, but the man sees it's just a minor scratch from a dead branch. When asked why she's barefoot, she explains she usually floats using magic and never needed shoes. As they get ready to move, he carries her carefully to avoid further injury. He warns her about dehydration and heat stroke, noticing her body is overheating. Despite this, she refuses to remove her heavy cape, revealing it's a symbolic item given by her father, a mark of command in the Elven Empire. The girl insists on keeping her gear on despite the heat, saying she won't take it off until she delivers the eternal heart to her father. Her companion warns her about heat stroke, but she brushes it off, eager to continue. Later, they reach a cave, but something is off. The water that should be there has completely vanished, leaving the boy in shock. The boy is stunned to see the cave's water gone and wonders if it dried up recently. Suddenly, the girl collapses. She's overwhelmed by the heat, her body heavy, throat dry, and head aching. Despite his attempts to wake her, she's barely conscious and on the verge of giving up. As she lies on the ground, a droplet of water lands on her lips. Slowly, she opens her mouth, letting it in. The cold sensation revives her slightly. Confused but relieved, she realizes it's water. A bit of hope returns. The boy explains how he managed to get water by digging into the soil, which was still humid underneath. Using a cloth, he filtered out the dirt and squeezed out drinkable water. He even mentions the possibility of reaching a water pool by digging deeper. Impressed, the girl praises his quick thinking and resourcefulness. The boy explains he gave her water immediately by squeezing it from the moist soil, knowing her condition was critical. He reassures her it's safe, filtered through cloth, soil, and rock. Though hesitant at first, she worries about him not drinking too. He insists it's fine, revealing he saved another portion for himself. Upon realizing the water came from a human's sock, the elf girl is horrified. She angrily declares her royal status as a princess of the Elven Empire and refuses to drink something so degrading. Furious, she kicks the sock away, calling him insolent. Meanwhile, the man can only sigh, realizing she still doesn't grasp what true survival demands. The man calls out the girl's pride, saying her talk about duty and the Elven Empire means nothing if she won't do what's needed to survive. He challenges her resolve, asking if she really plans to carry out her duty while ignoring her own survival. For him, the answer is simple. Nothing matters more right now than making it out alive. Moved by his words, the girl reflects on her pride and realizes that risking her life over it would betray the trust her father placed in her. Admitting her mistake with tears in her eyes, she decides to change her attitude. The man reassures her he wasn't criticizing, but she already seems resolved to act differently from now on. With determination in her eyes, the girl finally drinks the water filtered through the cloth. She then picks up the sock she had previously rejected, understanding its value. As the man silently watches, her gaze shifts. What once disgusted her now represents survival. With newfound resolve, the girl eagerly asks for more water, even if it comes from a filthy sock. She gulps it down without hesitation, declaring she'll survive no matter what it takes. The man watches, surprised but impressed by her drastic shift in attitude. The man manages to gather about 6 1.5-liter bottles of water. He explains that, under normal conditions, a person needs about 1.5 liters per day, but in the heat, they'd likely need a full bottle daily. That means their current supply would only last 3 days, even with careful rationing. The reality of their limited time hits both of them. The girl notices the variety of containers and asks about them. The man admits he gathered the bottles from beach trash. She's grossed out at first, but he reminds her they have no better options. Though it's not ideal, survival means using whatever's available. She reluctantly agrees, realizing now isn't the time to be picky. The girl's stomach growls and she tries to brush it off, embarrassed. The man admits he hasn't eaten since the day before either. With the sun already starting to set, they decide to search for food while there's still daylight. She offers to help, and together they head out, knowing time is tight after spending most of the day securing water. As they walk together, the girl realizes she never asked his name. He introduces himself as Shiuden Daiku, a high school teacher from Tokyo. Curious, she mistakes his profession for magic and assumes Tokyo is a village, revealing just how different their worlds are. Daiku explains he's a Japanese language teacher, not a magic user. The girl misunderstands, assuming he lacks magical talent and works in a remote village because of it. She pities him, thinking his survival skills come from a primitive lifestyle. Daiku, slightly confused, denies being a survival expert, unaware of how she's interpreting everything. Daiku admits he's no expert, he just enjoys survival content and learned through videos and books. In reality, he's only done casual camping. The girl is shocked, unable to believe someone with no real experience managed so much. Still, he reassures her that if anything happens, he'll protect her like a responsible adult, and they'll make it out together. The girl feels her heart race while looking at Daiku, flustered and clearly affected. Embarrassed, she blames it on a heart condition and nervously says she needs to see a doctor once she's back home. Meanwhile, the two continue walking by the shore, searching among the rocks in silence. As they search the shoreline, the girl questions why he isn't fishing in the sea. Daiku suddenly finds what he was looking for, a small shellfish or sea creature hidden among the rocks. With a proud smile, he holds it up and declares it their dinner, leaving the girl stunned by his determination. Though small, they're enough to recover some energy and survive for now. The girl freaks out at the idea of eating what looks like a snail, wondering why they aren't just fishing instead. Daiku calmly explains it's actually a shellfish, still seafood and much easier to catch without tools. Since fish are harder to get with bare hands, he suggests eating shellfish first to regain energy, then aiming for fish later. Fed up with the idea of eating shellfish, the girl boldly steps into the water, declaring her identity as Princess Anastasia Imperial, a powerful magician capable of catching fish without tools. Spotting fish in the shallows, she prepares to use her magic, confident in her abilities. Anastasia channels her magic, reciting an incantation with full confidence. Water spirals around her as she casts Hydro Prison, forming a powerful swirling vortex meant to trap the fish. Her magic surges with intensity, putting her skills on full display. Amazed by her success, Daiku praises Anastasia for actually trapping a fish with her magic. She urgently tells him to grab it while the spell holds. Wasting no time, Daiku charges toward the swirling water prison with full force, determined to secure their dinner. Just as Daiku reaches the swirling water, the sphere suddenly bursts, sending him flying. Anastasia collapses into the shallow water, drained. The fish slips away, and Daiku, concerned, rushes to check on her, confused about why the spell backfired. Daiku rushes over to Anastasia, who's collapsed unconscious on the shore. She starts to choke, having swallowed seawater. Panicked, Daiku tries to wake her, calling her name and urging her to hang on as he realizes the spell drained her strength. Anastasia coughs hard as Daiku helps her expel the seawater, gently tapping her back to clear it out. She finally starts to recover, though still weak and nauseous. Concerned, Daiku checks on her, hoping she's feeling better. She struggles, but manages to respond. Anastasia's stomach growls loudly, leaving her embarrassed. Daiku jokes about the sound, asking if she's really that hungry. She admits she was already starving, and casting magic drained what little energy she had left. Suddenly, Daiku spots something and calls her attention to it. Daiku spots a rock covered in shellfish and points it out. Though they lost the fish, he's thrilled they found plenty of food. He thanks Anastasia, saying her efforts led them to this moment. She silently takes in his words, still recovering but clearly moved. Anastasia watches in silence as Daiku prepares the shellfish, cracking and cleaning them. Once the fragments are rinsed off, they're ready to eat. Daiku starts eating and encourages her to do the same, saying it's time to enjoy the food they worked so hard to find. Daiku encourages Anastasia to try the shellfish, saying it's better than expected. Hesitant at first, she finally gives it a taste and is surprised it's actually not bad. He explains it has no seasoning, but the natural flavor stands out. Slowly, she starts to eat, realizing it's not as bad as she thought. Right after trying the shellfish, Anastasia's face twists in horror. She drops to her knees, crying and gagging as she spits everything out, overwhelmed by the taste. Through sobs and drool, she mumbles in confusion, asking what on earth she just ate. Daiku watches, concerned but also a bit stunned. Anastasia admits she's never eaten shellfish before. To her, it tastes like dirt and fish, completely unfamiliar. She explains that living in the palace of the elven forest, her diet mainly consists of forest products, grains, vegetables, fruits, and the occasional fish, so seafood is entirely outside her usual meals. Daiku is stunned by the revelation. Daiku realizes Anastasia is completely drained from using magic and can't handle strong-flavored food like shellfish. Reflecting on their different eating habits, he wonders if he should look for something milder. Just as he worries about searching in the dark, he spots a leftover coconut and lights up with hope it might be the perfect food for her. Daiku hands Anastasia a coconut to drink. She hesitantly takes a sip, and her eyes light up. She finds it delicious. The light, sweet taste and refreshing aroma instantly lift her spirits. Daiku smiles, glad it worked, as she describes the natural sweetness spreading through her mouth. Anastasia admits it's her first time trying coconut. Though she'd heard of it, she'd never seen one before. She reveals she's been sheltered inside the palace, spending her days training in magic for the sake of the Elven Empire, Alheim. With no contact with the outside world, her knowledge came only from books. Anastasia softly expresses that even a small comfort like the coconut gives her something to look forward to. But the man quickly realizes the coconut doesn't have enough juice or flesh to satisfy her hunger. Worried about Anastasia's lack of appetite, he thinks of a way to help her eat more. He brings up tapioca, explaining how it's used in sweet drinks with chewy pearls, especially popular among younger people. She's never heard of it before. He gets an idea: mix snail meat into the coconut, inspired by the concept of tapioca. His logic is that presenting it in a fun, drink-like way might make the strong flavor easier for her to handle. Anastasia is baffled, not understanding his odd reasoning. She nervously drinks the coconut mixed with snail meat. At first, she coughs, but then admits it's not as bad as before. The coconut's sweetness seems to soften the snail's flavor, making it slightly more tolerable. Even though she still doesn't like the taste, the coconut-snail combo helped her regain some energy. He praises her for pushing through it despite her initial hesitation, and she quietly accepts the compliment. She admits the odd dish isn't so bad after all, and feels grateful for his creative thinking. Realizing she's been the only one eating, she offers to share. He agrees and decides to give it a try himself. He takes a sip, trying to act brave, but the mix of flavors instantly overwhelms him. Unable to handle it, he spits it out in shock, calling the taste devastating. Anastasia lay unconscious on the ground, her body still and covered in dirt and leaves. Suddenly, a familiar voice called her name, snapping her awake. Eyes wide, she quickly turned toward the sound, recognizing who it was. Anastasia wakes up to find her mother standing before her. Relieved, she rushes into her arms, thinking she's been saved. But the reunion takes a grim turn when her mother breaks the news. Alfheim, the Elven Empire, has fallen. Struggling to accept it, Anastasia's expression shifts from joy to disbelief, refusing to believe what she just heard. Before Anastasia stood the terrifying Dragon King Naga. Her mother, calm but stern, explained that Anastasia's sudden disappearance had tipped the battlefield's balance, leading to the Empire's downfall. Another elf, shocked by the accusation, cried out the dragon's name in disbelief. A massive blast followed, engulfing everything. She suddenly woke up by the campfire, breathing heavily, realizing it had all been a dream. 3 days had passed since Anastasia vanished from the battlefield, with no rescue in sight. While she waited, her thoughts drifted to the worsening war situation. Although Alfheim's forces had been dominant, their chances were fading. The Dragon King Naga was overwhelming, and even their elite magical troops couldn't keep up. Hoping for a solution, the group decided to consult Shuden for a way to escape the island. While navigating the forest, Anastasia followed bent branches, confident she was on the right path. Suddenly she heard a voice, one that didn't belong to Xiaodun. Confused and alert, she questioned if they were truly alone on the island as they had believed. Hidden behind the trees, Anastasia spotted a man she knew, Xiaodun. But to her shock, he was using magic, something she believed he couldn't do. Her mind raced with questions, and a chilling thought struck her. Had he been lying to her all along? Anastasia bolted through the forest, panic surging as she questioned everything. Was it all a setup? She realized the past few days might have been a trap to isolate her. Spotting Xiaodun chasing after her, her suspicions deepened. With no time to waste, she decided to contact reinforcements. Anastasia launched a lightning spell, striking Xiaodun with full force. But instead of faltering, he blocked it with ease, and even smiled through the attack. Her eyes widened in disbelief. He was completely unfazed. Anastasia froze as she realized he was smiling. In an instant, Xiaodun had overpowered her, pinning her down and covering her mouth. Her eyes widened in fear. Everything was happening too fast to make sense of. Just as Anastasia was pinned down, a massive beast appeared behind them. Her fear turned to shock as she realized Xiaodun wasn't attacking, he was protecting her. He calmly reminded her about the monsters on the island, confirming the threat was real. Xiaodun explained that the monster, territorial and aggressive, was the main reason why exploring the island was dangerous. Anastasia listened as he identified it as a quake hog, a low-class Earth-type beast from the mountain forests. Though not magical, it was still a serious threat for anyone unable to use magic. He casually revealed he'd nicknamed it the violent, stingy Mohawk Pig. Shuden calmly explained that the beast would stop chasing them if they left its territory fast enough, but before they could retreat, the Quake Hog let out a deafening roar and charged straight at them. To escape the charging beast, Shiyuden jumped off a cliff with Anastasia in his arms. Though bruised and shaken, they both survived the fall. Anastasia rushed to check on him, relieved to see he was still conscious. He assured her they were okay, despite the reckless move. Once they reached a safe spot, Anastasia turned on Shiyuden, furious and accusing him of deception. She believed he was the reason she couldn't use magic. Shiyuden, caught off guard, denied everything, claiming he never lied to her. Anastasia insisted she saw a radiant seal cube advanced magic used to trap people. She believed it was tied to why she couldn't use her powers. But Shiyuden, confused, revealed what she saw was just his phone, not a magical artifact. Shiyuden explained that what she saw was simply a smartphone, a communication device, not magic. He showed her how it played videos, which led to the misunderstanding. Anastasia, still unfamiliar with the technology, mistook the footage for a vision sealed by magic. He pointed out it was likely just a scene from one of his videos, not a spell or curse. Shiyuden tried to explain the phone as a piece of human technology, but it only deepened Anastasia's sense of helplessness. Feeling overwhelmed, she broke down, blaming herself for being unable to complete her mission or fight back. She stood quietly, calling herself useless. Crying, Anastasia blamed herself for everything, her mistakes, her fear, even hurting Shiyuden. She called herself worthless, but Shiyuden stopped her, saying it wasn't true. He'd just realized something, there was something only she could do. Shiyuden explained that his smartphone had many survival tools like a compass and flashlight, but using them drained the battery. Until now, he'd been holding back to save power. However, thanks to Anastasia, he found a way to solve that problem. Shiyuden excitedly revealed that Anastasia's lightning spell had charged his phone by 1%. Though she was unsure why that mattered, he explained the phone contained crucial survival videos and books. Since he wasn't an expert himself, her magic was now key to keeping their lifeline powered. Shiyuden asked her to help recharge the phone, explaining how low the battery had been. Anastasia didn't fully get the tech talk, but understood it was important. With a proud smile, she accepted the role, calling it her new mission. From now on, she'd be the phone charger. Anastasia proudly declared her new role, promising to handle all charging duties. But just as she walked off confidently, a sudden attack came from the trees. Shiyuden quickly pulled her down and shielded her. From the shadows, an unknown enemy mocked her, questioning why she hadn't cast a counterspell. Anastasia froze in disbelief as a familiar, terrifying figure appeared. Standing before her in humanoid form was none other than Dragon King Naga, grinning, transformed, and even more dangerous than she remembered. Shiyuden was stunned as the truth clicked. She wasn't just any enemy. She was a dragonkin, part of a powerful race with natural magical talent. And not just any dragonkin. She was the strongest of them all, the one known as the Dragon King Naga. Shiyuden and Anastasia realized the Dragon King wasn't wearing anything because Dragonkin removed their clothes before transforming for battle. While joking about her nudity, they noticed a wound on her neck, an injury from an earlier attack. Despite the situation, Shiyuden suggested they at least get her something to wear, while keeping cautious of her lethal precision. Shiyuden snapped, furious that Naga had aimed for Anastasia's vital spot. He yelled that if he hadn't pulled her away, she would have died. But Naga just grinned and charged again, forcing Shiyuden to brace himself for a direct hit. Naga struck Shiyuden hard, knocking him back as Anastasia cried out in shock. Taunting her, Naga questioned why she wasn't fighting back with magic. Anastasia, overwhelmed and furious, screamed for her to stop, unable to take the sight any longer. Shiyuden tried reasoning with Naga, pointing out that fighting was pointless since they were all stranded on the same island. But Naga dismissed him with contempt, declaring the fight a personal duel between her and Anastasia. She revealed that for 50 years, clashing with the shrimpy elf had been her only source of fun. Naga mocked Anastasia again, daring her to fight back and warm up the battle. As she reached out aggressively, Shiyuden yelled in protest. But before anyone could stop her, she struck Anastasia in the chest, triggering something unexpected. As Naga raised her claws for another blow, Shiyuden intercepted her strike, grabbing her arm mid-swing. Anastasia, injured and shaken, looked up as he stood between them. Glaring at Naga, he told her to back off, warning Anastasia to move away. Naga, eyes darkening, muttered that he must have a death wish. Enraged, Naga roared that she'd crush Shiuden first. She lunged at him with full force, but he didn't back down. He stepped forward and threw a punch of his own, meeting her head-on. The real fight had begun. Shiuden landed a clean blow, knocking Naga back and stunning her. She couldn't believe a human had hit her like that. Anastasia watched in shock, wondering how he could even stand up to the Dragon King. But Shiuden simply replied, "He's just a high school teacher." Shiuden explains the truth behind his strength. He works at a school overrun by violent delinquents from all across Japan. It's a lawless zone, where even the teachers have to fight to keep order. He used to discipline these students with his own fists. When he questioned the outdated brutality of the system, a senior teacher told him this school belongs to neither the Reiwa nor the Showa era. It's a world of its own. Shiuden Daiku, the student guidance supervisor at Sengoku High School, stands ready with fists up. Known for handling the school's chaos with his own strength, he's no stranger to fighting through turbulent times. This is Sengoku High School, where order is kept with sheer power. Anastasia realizes Shiuden has some serious fighting experience, though he admits he's not into violence unless it's necessary. Naga, unfazed and grinning, mocks the idea of stopping. Despite his calm reasoning, she launches straight into another charge she's not done yet. Naga grins and tells Shiuden he's just the warm-up before the real fight. She's treating this like a game, while he's already on edge, preparing to defend himself again. This battle's far from over. Naga charges at Shiuden with her Dragon Claw burst, the impact shattering the ground between them. Shiuden dodges at the last second, watching the aftermath of her attack with a serious look. Anastasia stands back, shocked by the power. Shiuden is caught off guard by the sudden explosion from Naga's strike, realizing it created a shockwave. As she charges in again, he's forced to react quickly, wondering if she's also capable of using magic. Naga unleashes a blast of fire straight at Shiuden, shocking him. He stumbles back, stunned that she can breathe fire, and begins to question how he's supposed to fight a monster like her. Naga mocks Shiuden for dodging instead of fighting back. Anastasia watches closely and notices his sloppy form, realizing it's not like him at all. She suspects he's holding back on purpose, testing his opponent rather than fighting seriously. Naga arrogantly declares her superiority, calling humans worthless. Shiuden, tired of holding back, shifts his stance and prepares to get serious, cracking his knuckles and focusing his energy as the ground begins to rumble. Naga unleashes her true form, towering over Shiuden as the Dragon King, radiating power and fire. She threatens to incinerate him with her scorching flames. Despite the overwhelming presence, Shiuden doesn't flinch, staring her down with a smirk, ready for whatever comes next. Shiuden stands frozen, staring up at the massive dragon towering over him. The transformation is real, no illusion. The Dragon King declares it an honor for a human to be burned by its flame. Despite the pressure, Shiuden doesn't back down. Shiuden braces himself, determined to end things today. The Dragon King mocks him, vowing to burn him first and then go after the girl. But just as tension peaks, Shiuden charges in and clashes head-on with the beast, shaking the ground with the impact. It's revealed that dragonkin like her can store magic power and mana in their bodies, which let her fight at full strength despite the mana-scarce environment. But now, her stored mana is depleted. Without external mana to replenish it, she can't transform or use any of her dragonkin abilities. With her mana depleted, the dragon girl's strength plummets, leaving her confused and enraged. Observers note she's now no different from a normal human, giving Shiuden a real shot at winning. But despite her weakened state, she charges in, refusing to accept defeat. Shiuden brushes off concern after barely dodging an attack, claiming he's fine despite a bleeding nose. As his ally checks on him, he tries to stay composed, even joking about the situation. Though the toll of the battle is starting to show, Shiuden starts hitting himself, entering a berserker state called Mad Spirit Awakening. It's a brutal technique that amps up physical power through self-inflicted pain. As his aura surges, his enemy realizes he's finally getting serious. The Dragonkin, grinning, prepares to release all her remaining mana and magic power in a last-ditch move to match Shiuden's serious stance. As she charges in recklessly, he stays sharp, eyeing her strange gesture mid-attack. Shiuden blocks the incoming blow using makeshift wooden boards, but they're torn apart in an instant. The Dragonkin lunges with a sharp, glowing claw that slices through them with ease. Despite her weakened state, she still retains enough power to cut through normal weapons and armor. Just as Shiuden turns in response to his ally, the Dragonkin charges in and grabs him by the face with a crazed grin. He instantly realizes something's off, as her claws dig in, catching him completely off guard. As the dragonkin goes for a surprise strike, Shiuden blocks her blade just in time. Shocked, he recognizes it as a weapon forged from rare elven magic ore. Without hesitation, he counters with a powerful punch. Shiuden knocks the dragonkin out with a clean punch to the jaw. As she lies unconscious, he tells the others to tie her up before she wakes. Shiuden hesitates, unsure whether to cover Naga or restrain her first. His awkward silence draws suspicion, and the elf girl quickly grows annoyed, thinking he's a little too focused on Naga's naked body. The elf girl returns the knife to Shiuden, quietly reflecting on how she kept it hidden while watching him struggle with makeshift tools. Though she denies being angry, her words hint at guilt for not speaking up sooner. Shiuden realizes the knife the elf girl carried holds deep meaning. She explains it was a gift from her mother before going to war, a last resort tool to end her life if ever captured. It's both a keepsake and a grim safeguard. The elf girl reveals the knife is a sacred talisman from her mother, cursed to grant a painless death if used on the heart. Though she never intended to use it here, she believes it can help them survive. Trusting Shiuden, she decides to entrust it to him, confident it will be safe in his hands. The demon girl recovers from the blow and admits the punch was impressive, still feeling its effects. She compliments Shiuden, surprised that a mere human managed to defeat her. The elf girl notices she likely used her claws to cut through the restraints. Shiuden questions if she intends to keep fighting, but the demon's expression hints at something else. The demon girl suddenly declares that it's dragonkin custom for the strongest female to bear children from males who defeat them. Since she was never defeated until now, Shiuden qualifies. The elf is shocked, accusing her of being shameless, while the demon calmly explains it's a way to ensure strong offspring. The dragon girl demands to be impregnated, claiming Shiuden has earned the right. The elf is stunned, calling it impossible. Shiuden, surprisingly calm, lays out a practical argument pointing out the dangers of pregnancy, childbirth, and raising a child in their harsh survival conditions. The elf can't believe he's seriously thinking it through. The dragonkin woman becomes aggressive, saying this isn't a request, and that she'll force it if necessary. Shiuden stays still while the elf panics, shocked by the threat and the situation spiraling out of control. The horned girl suddenly backs out of a fight, saying she's not feeling well. Without waiting for a response, she turns and walks away, saying she'll fight again another time. When someone asks where she's going, she casually replies she's hungry and off to find food. The black-haired man watches silently before finally speaking up, asking her to say something, but she pauses, only responding with, "Wait." The man invites the horned girl to join their group, pointing out that working together increases their chances of survival. The elf girl is surprised by this suggestion and calls out to him. He also mentions there's some kind of connection between the two girls, hinting it might be important. The horned girl stays silent, thinking about his offer. The horned girl rejects the invitation, bragging that she's the Dragon King and doesn't need to live with humans. She leaves right away, ignoring the others. The man and elf are left watching her go. He remembers a similar feeling from when he first arrived on the island, thinking back to a powerful dragon. The elf girl is shocked that someone as strong as Naga came all this way. The elf girl worries about what could happen if the horned girl comes back to attack them once she's recovered, and wonders if there's a way to restore her magic and mana. The man sits nearby, focused on treating their wounds. He suggests they return to camp for now, and calls the elf girl by her name, Anastasia, snapping her out of her thoughts. The man gives Anastasia some boiled water to clean her wound, even though potable water is scarce. She's hesitant, knowing how valuable it is, but he explains it's safer to use clean water to avoid infection since they have no doctors or medicine. In the end, Anastasia agrees, realizing it's better to be cautious. Anastasia admits she's not used to treating wounds without magic, feeling a bit embarrassed. The man offers to help and asks her to open her collar. She hesitates, but lets him clean the wound, nervously asking him to be gentle. She tries to reassure herself, saying it stings a little, but it's not too bad. Anastasia yelps in surprise as the man applies disinfectant to her wound, warning her it will sting. He explains that he's using a disinfectant made from Naga's claw, which can clean both skin and wounds. She's annoyed but realizes he means well, so she decides to forgive him. Then, she tries to ask him something. Anastasia asks to borrow the dragon claw. The man explains he took it because it's sharp enough to cut through tree trunks, and he wondered if he could use it to craft tools. Anastasia thinks about how dragon claws are usually strong enough to cut through steel, and even weapons made from magic ore shouldn't cut so easily. She also notices the protective spells on the horned girl are weakening because of low mana, just like her own. Anastasia explains that elves are born with protective magic and blessings that also boost their physical abilities. She shows that the part of her hair grown before arriving on the island is strong and won't break easily, while the part grown on the island, where mana is low, is thin and fragile. She believes other races have their own unique traits and protective magics as well. The man wonders why Naga wasn't affected by the island's mana like the others, then realizes she might have just arrived later. While deep in thought about Naga's claws, he starts inspecting Anastasia's bed for clues. She catches him in the act, confused, and asks what he's doing on her bed. The man gets excited, realizing the curved claw could be used as a fishing hook, and Anastasia's strong hair could be braided into a fishing line. He explains that together, they can make a complete fishing setup. Anastasia is shocked, wondering if it's normal in the human world to use someone's hair and nails like this, while he's already eager to try out his idea. The man tests out his homemade fishing gear by the shore, while Anastasia sits nearby, watching. She quietly wonders if he really intends to befriend someone as dangerous as Naga, showing her doubts about his plan. Anastasia says her relationship with Naga is pretty bad. The man guesses there's a deeper history between elves and dragons, recalling that the two races were at war. Anastasia explains that she and Naga, as the strongest princesses of their clans, have been forced to duel for political reasons for over 50 years, but neither has ever claimed victory in their long rivalry. Anastasia calls Naga a battle maniac, saying she's always been eager to fight since their first duel. The man thinks Naga just enjoys finally having a real rival. He asks Anastasia's age, and she gets embarrassed but admits she's 148 years old, scolding him for being rude. She points out that both she and Naga can influence the war between their nations, and the man awkwardly accepts that, given dragons exist, a young-looking elf can easily be over 100 years old. Anastasia says she can't imagine spending time with someone like Naga. The man thinks the whole situation is unbelievable, but starts to wonder if all the magic and war stories she's telling might actually be true. He reflects that sometimes even enemies end up having to work together, like in the story of bitter enemies in the same boat. For now, he decides to just go along with what she says. The man tells a story about enemies from Wu and Yue who had to work together during a storm, showing that even rivals need to cooperate when faced with a bigger threat. He suggests they put aside their history and focus on surviving the island for now, leaving old conflicts for later. He admits he doesn't know all the details of their situation and isn't in a position to tell Anastasia what to do. He points out that their chances of survival will be much better if they work together and use each other's strengths. As he says this, he manages to catch a big fish, impressing Anastasia with their teamwork's immediate results. The man proudly shows off their catch, smiling and asking Anastasia if she gets the point about working together, just like how their fishing gear combined both of their strengths. Anastasia looks amazed, and they soon cook their fish over a fire, enjoying the results of their teamwork. Anastasia enjoys the grilled fish, looking happy and satisfied as she eats. After their meal, both of them clean up the remains on the beach, looking a bit tired but content with the teamwork that got them through the day. As the sun rises, the two walk along the beach. The man mentions that yesterday went well, they caught fish and gathered useful supplies. Anastasia adds that even though the fish wasn't big, it felt like her first real meal since arriving on the island. The next morning, while hoping to catch more fish, they spot someone lying on the sand and rush over, realizing it's Naga and she's badly injured. The man and Anastasia are shocked by her condition, quickly noticing that she's bleeding and must have been hurt in some kind of fight. Seeing Naga in such bad shape, the man quickly tells Anastasia they need to carry her back to camp. They rush to help and soon have Naga laid out on a bed of leaves at their campsite, ready to treat her wounds. They realize Naga's wound is infected, there's pus, and she has a high fever. The man worries that the infection is serious and could be deadly without proper medicine. Anastasia knows they need antibiotics, but without them, Naga's life is at risk. Even though Naga tried to kill them before, the man says they can't just let her die. He decides they should do what they can to help, starting by boiling water and cloth to clean her wound as best as possible, since they don't have proper medicine. Anastasia is surprised but goes along with his plan. The man pours water on Naga's wound to clean it, but she reacts violently, even while injured. Anastasia, seeing how serious things are, quietly offers to help as well. The man notices her support as they both focus on treating Naga together. The man guides Anastasia through cleaning Naga's wound, reminding her to rinse it and wipe away any dirt. Anastasia nervously follows his instructions while asking the man to hold Naga still, since she keeps resisting from the pain. They work together to treat her as best they can. Naga struggles violently as they try to treat her, forcing the man to physically restrain her. After a brief struggle, he manages to hold her down and calls out for Anastasia to quickly finish cleaning the wound. Naga finally stops fighting and calms down, exhausted. The man gets ready to apply disinfectant to her wound, while Anastasia notices that Naga is barely able to resist anymore and wonders if she's just run out of strength. They finally finish disinfecting Naga's wound and decide to let her rest. Anastasia points out that Naga's fever means she needs to stay hydrated. They realize they used up most of their clean water on her wound and now only have one bottle left, which puts them in a tough spot. Instead of worrying about their water shortage, the man suggests they go look for more. Anastasia offers to help. When they check their old water source, it's dried up, so they start gathering bottles from the beach to refill their supplies, making several trips in hopes of finding enough to get by. Before sunset, they manage to collect just enough fresh water to fill one bottle and catch a small fish, a crab, and some shellfish. Despite their efforts, as they sit by the campfire with Naga still sick, the man admits their situation is looking pretty rough. With supplies running low, the man gives his share of water to Naga, not drinking any himself. Anastasia notices this and worries that if things keep going like this, he'll end up collapsing from exhaustion and dehydration. The man checks Naga's temperature with his forehead, explaining that it's more reliable than using his hands since they can get hot from other activities. Anastasia gets embarrassed and tells him she doesn't need a demonstration. She gets the idea. Anastasia gets annoyed at the man for being too kind to Naga. Despite their efforts to care for her, Naga's fever hasn't gone down at all, and both realize this is a bad sign even after some time has passed. All they can do now is let her rest and hope she recovers. They realize Naga's condition is serious, and she needs antibiotics because the infection in her wound has caused a high fever. The man explains that without antibiotics, the only hope is for her own immune system to fight off the infection, but the chance of recovery is very low. Anastasia explains there might be a way to help Naga. She says Naga is defenseless against diseases now because she can't use magic without mana. Anastasia reveals that magically blessed races are usually resistant to diseases and poisons because of protective magic. Anastasia explains that casting magic on the island uses a lot of magic power and requires mana, which is hard to gather here. Naga can't use her protective magic on her own due to the lack of mana, but if someone else gives her magic power, she should be able to activate her abilities and recover. Shioden wonders if he has magic power and considers giving it to her, even though humans without training usually have weak magic. Anastasia explains that Shioden has strong life energy, and there's a way to turn physical energy into magic power to help Naga. For the magic to work well, he needs to stay in physical contact with her for over half a day, and the process will likely have to be repeated a few times. She tells him to think carefully before deciding, but he's ready to start right away. Anastasia warns Shioden that using his energy to save Naga will leave him completely exhausted each time. Their supplies are already running low, so if he collapses too, they could all be in real trouble. Even so, she asks if he still plans to go through with it, and Shioden realizes they might actually be doomed. Shioden thinks about their situation and admits they don't have enough resources to support 3 people, especially with one injured. He knows Anastasia is right. Still, he remembers there's a way to turn his own physical energy into magic, but wishes they could find more supplies to make things less desperate. Shioden realizes he's been fixated on searching for resources, but then gets an idea. If they boil seawater using the iron bucket they found, they can collect the steam and turn it into fresh water by separating out the salt. Now he just needs to figure out how to actually gather the steam. Shioden gets excited as he realizes they already have everything they need. He explains to Anastasia that by boiling seawater and collecting the steam, they can get fresh water. He's basically planning to build a simple distillation setup using the materials they have on hand. Shioden uses the hollow legs of a chair as pipes for the distillation setup. He cuts a hole in the seat, connects the pipes, and boils water in a bucket. The steam travels through the chair leg pipes and condenses in a bottle, making a simple but effective distillation apparatus. Shioden quickly tells Anastasia to bring seawater so they can test the distillation device. They heat the bucket, and soon, fresh water starts to collect in the bottle as the process works just like they hoped. They manage to produce about 300 milliliters of water in an hour. Shioden encourages Anastasia to drink, and after tasting it herself, she offers some to him too, making sure the water is safe for both of them, and realize how useful it is for survival. Even though they solve their water problem for now, food is still an issue, and using magic to help Naga will drain stamina, making things even harder. They know they need to stay flexible and keep thinking creatively to survive. Shao decides they need to focus on getting more food, suggesting they set traps to catch animals. He tells Anastasia there's a way to help Naga and gather resources at the same time, but he'll need her help and strength to do it. Anastasia is surprised, but listens to his plan. Anastasia agrees to help, but says she'll stop the spell if Shioden's life is in danger. Shioden is grateful for her support and calls for a strategy meeting to plan their next steps. Shao and Anastasia gather ingredients and make a simple meal with fish, oysters, shellfish, and some plants. They both quietly drink their soup, trying to recover their energy. They spend the day distilling water and manage to fill 4 bottles. Naga needs extra water because of her fever, but now they have enough for everyone. The process worked well for their first try. Sheu sets up traps for hunting and fishing, marking them with sticks inside bottles. While the traps are ready, Naga's fever isn't improving, forcing them to rely on magic. He tells Anastasia it's time to begin. They set up a magic circle around Naga, while Anastasia prepares to maintain the magic until morning. They explain that in a mana-scarce environment, the most effective way to transfer magical energy is through direct physical contact. The man steels himself and commits to the method, focusing only on saving Naga's life, despite the strain and awkwardness of the situation. Anastasia activates a powerful spell, pouring her life force into the magic circle. She calls on the earth to answer her prayer, unleashing a surge of magic meant to restore Naga, while the man endures the strain as the energy flows through him. After casting the spell, Anastasia staggers away from the circle, breathing heavily. She realizes she may have used too much magic, as pain spreads through her chest. Standing by the shore, she quietly questions why her heart hurts this badly after the spell. Anastasia snaps in frustration, accusing him of being too kind to Naga even when it puts his own life at risk. She storms off toward the shore, questioning why he would help someone who brought them danger and hardship, especially after sharing hunger, thirst, and suffering with someone he barely knows. Anastasia sits alone by the shore, calming down as she reflects on why she truly trusts him, realizing he once did the same for her. The man wakes up barely able to move, his body completely drained. Naga stirs and reacts weakly, while Anastasia returns with seawater, seeing that both of them are still exhausted but conscious. The man struggles to move, realizing the magic drained him far more than expected. After forcing himself up with what little strength he has left, he sits there exhausted, barely holding himself together, while Anastasia watches with concern. Shioden realizes he misjudged his condition and is left too weak to move, overwhelmed by hunger after losing so much strength. Anastasia quickly understands the situation and offers to retrieve the trapped prey herself, asking where he set the traps while he struggles to respond. Anastasia confirms she'll collect the trapped prey herself. Shioden agrees and hands her his bag, telling her to put everything inside. She nods and heads out right away while he watches, still too weak to move. Naga's fever has eased a lot, and it looks like she'll recover by the next day. Anastasia is surprised that a single spell worked so well. The man admits he felt helpless and worried, but chose to focus on saving Naga despite how hard the situation was. The man thanks Anastasia for her help, admitting he found hope when she said Naga could be cured. He explains that when he couldn't even move, it meant a lot that she stepped in on her own. Thanks to her support, they were able to get through the crisis together. Anastasia smiles with quiet pride, clearly pleased with herself, while the man reacts with mild disbelief. As morning arrives, he realizes he slept deeply and feels unusually rested, surprised by how much time has passed. As the man wakes up, he's shocked to see Naga standing and smiling ominously. Anastasia begins casting a spell, but the situation turns tense, forcing the man to shout her name in alarm. The man wakes to find a dead rabbit nearby and realizes Naga threw it at him while he was sleeping. Seeing the blood, he understands there are rabbits on the island. Naga steps forward confidently, while Anastasia confronts her, demanding to know what she plans to do with it. Naga casually offers one of the rabbits she caught, saying she hunted too. She treats it as a simple favor but clearly enjoys provoking the others. Anastasia stays wary, sensing Naga is testing who is stronger, while the man notices the blood on Naga's mouth and realizes she may have eaten one raw. Naga explains that she prefers eating prey raw, claiming the innards are the best part and important to her kind. The man warns her it is risky in this environment, where mana is scarce and magic cannot strengthen the body. As they talk, Naga shows interest in humans, noting she has heard their bodies can grow stronger through protective magic. Naga realizes her poor condition comes from eating unsafe food and underestimating common illnesses. After listening to the explanation, she quickly understands the danger, noting that a normal animal would have died instantly under the same circumstances. Naga explains that she attacked a wild quakehog out of hunger. The fight turned brutal, and although she was injured, she managed to survive. Hearing this, the others are stunned, realizing she lost to a female beast and barely escaped with her life. Naga declares she will settle things herself and targets the pig next. Xiaodun tries to stop her and asks her to reconsider, but she remains defiant, while he can only watch in uneasy silence. Naga proposes joining forces instead of fighting. She suggests working together to survive and leave the island, then settle things later. Xiaodun hesitates, but realizes that staying here limits their strength, making cooperation the only realistic choice for now. Naga points out Xiaodun's limp and asks if it's also caused by mana exhaustion. He admits it is, then quickly denies it matters. Her quiet reaction unsettles him, leaving both Xiaodun and Anastasia surprised by how casually she accepts it. Anastasia decides to trust Xiaodun's judgment. With that settled, the tension eases, and the three agree to set aside past grudges and cooperate until they find a way off the island. She bluntly states her goal. She wants children and wants to leave the island fast. She plans to cooperate only to survive and escape, ignoring the shock her words cause as she pulls him closer and makes her intentions clear. Anastasia blurts out an extreme plan to leave the island fast, cure him, and secure a future together. Her blunt words stun everyone, especially the horned woman, who reacts with teasing interest. Trying to regain control, Anastasia nervously shifts to a serious tone, explaining that before any sacred ritual, they must stay calm and work together properly. The horned woman boldly proposes a reckless competition to decide who will bear the strongest offspring, clearly provoking the others. Anastasia explodes in frustration, outright rejecting the idea and condemning her twisted way of thinking. Caught between their clashing tempers, he can only wonder if this situation is about to spiral completely out of control.